Now playing at 6 Music.
My name's Errol Alkin and I've been asked to speak about Daft Punk. My first memory of Daft Punk was hearing The Funk on a compilation CD by Annie Nightingale called Annie on One. And before hearing it, I'd heard a lot about this record called The Funk that everyone was kind of losing their minds over. And by the time I got around to hearing it, it felt like it was a record that I'd already known for years. It felt really familiar and instant, which you kind of have with a few records in your lifetime. You felt like you've always known them.
Finally tonight, the most hotly anticipated dance album for years is about to be released by influential French duo Daft Punk, preceded by the global smash hit single Get Lucky. Daft Punk single Get Lucky, which has gone to number 1 in more than a dozen countries and has already sold 500,000 copies in the UK alone. Now comes the album Random Acess Memories, the first from Daft Punk for 8 years. It arrives amid a tightly controlled marketing campaign that's seen only brief snippets of music previewed online. So will it be worth the wait? With me is the writer and DJ Dave Haslam. Dave, huge hype and hyperbole about this album. First of all, why are Daft Punk significant?
Well, I think they've always been considered pioneers. I mean, we've been waiting, as you say, 7 or 8 years for this album. It's only their 4th, but each time they've released an album, it's kind of hit the zeitgeist, or even created the zeitgeist in some cases. So, and there's also a sense that dance music, as we know it, has evolved through lots of different eras. So people are waiting to see, well, what's now or what's next. And also, as you say, the way that they've the marketing talk around it, that helps to the anticipation, of course.
It's a very lush record, this, though, isn't it? Immaculately produced. There's the sense that a lot of money's been spent on this record. They've invested the proceeds of their success wisely, and out go those scuzzy synths and the found beats, and in come real drums, guitars, and it's a record which I think it declares its intent right from the opening beat. So here's the opening track, Give Life Back to Music. Dave, anybody of our generation will say Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire, and most of all Chic, and that is in fact the sound of Nile Rodgers on that record.
Yeah, I mean, they've brought in a number of collaborators. That's partly, again, the reason why there's been so much talk about it. Nile Rodgers being one of them, from Chic, and other collaborators as well. There's a lot of there is a sense of luxuriousness about this, and a sense of sleekness.
Yeah.
It's not
and chicness, as we can hear in that guitar riff.
The whole thing with Chic was it was always about style, and it was always about the surface, as well as getting people onto the dance floor. And I think Daft Punk have taken that on very much so. I mean, in a way, it's definitely not an album for people who like their music to be jagged or threatening. You know, there is a very much, I think, a sense of perfection about it.
And Daft Punk have very loyal fans, and I think this might upset a few people, the people who want that sense of edge. I mean, I read on a blog somewhere this week, and it was from an American website, but it was saying there is a danger that because this album is so lush and it will sell in such huge quantities, it's likely to be this generation's Hotel California.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's also people, in a way, don't like their artists to change, but artists do like to change. You know, it is a sense that it's a little bit of an indulgence, maybe. It's got that sense that they've spent as long as they like, getting every little bleep and everything right, dead on, perfect. And not everybody wants perfect. It's got that kind of airbrushed quality about it.
And if Nile Rodgers is one of the presiding, guiding spirits of the record, the other one is Giorgio Moroder, the Italian disco pioneer who made I Feel Love with Donna Summer and a load of records. And there's actually a track here called Giorgio by Moroder. It's almost like a history lesson set to 120 beats per minute.
It's right. I mean, the collaborators that they've used do hark back to those previous eras. Nile Rodgers and Giorgio Moroder.
Let's hear that one.
At that time in Germany, in 69, 70, they had already discotheques. So I would take my car, would go to a discotheque, sing maybe 30 minutes. I think I had about 7, 8 songs. I would partially sleep in the car because I didn't want to drive home. And that helped me for about almost 2 years to survive in the beginning.
It's like a musical lecture, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
so Giorgio Moroder interviewed and then set to the beat.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't collaborate in any musical sense. I believe that he kind of was dragged into the studio or invited into the studio, and he talks about his life. And I actually think that's one of the most interesting tracks on the album. I mean, it's 9 minutes long. It starts off with him talking about his life, but the music echoes a lot of the stuff that he used to do in the mid-1970s.
Yes.
We remember Donna Summer, I Feel Love, which was that revolutionised electronic dance music, almost created the whole genre, and Daft Punk have invited him. And as you say, they're giving the listener a little bit of a history lesson, but I actually like the tone of it as well. I like the sonic quality of his voice, and the fact that he's an Italian who's worked in Germany, and he's on a record that's made by French people.
Which he's going to sell in huge quantities in America.
Exactly. That you do get that sense of internationality, but I also like the way that it goes back to that time when synthesizers were new. And we had, not only Giorgio Moroder, but it also takes me back to Cerrone, who wrote a brilliant song called Supernature.
Right.
And he was French as well. There is a big tradition here.
A great disco history lesson. Thanks very much to Dave Haslam. Daft Punk's album Random Acess Memories is released on Monday.
Nile Rodgers' band Chic were one of the biggest disco acts ever. He also wrote hits for Sister Sledge and Diana Ross.
I said upside down, you turn me, you're giving love instinctively.
Before producing both Madonna and David Bowie. But now, at the age of 60, Nile Rodgers is having one of the most successful years of his entire career.
2013 is starting out so amazing that I can't even keep pace with it. I think the main catalyst is the Daft Punk album.
He was asked by the French electronic duo to collaborate on their first album for 8 years. Random Acess Memories is currently #1 on both sides of the Atlantic, and the single they wrote together, Get Lucky, is the biggest seller in the UK this year.
She's up all night to the sun, I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun, I'm up all night to get lucky.
You've had hits for more than 35 years. Explain what it is about Get Lucky that makes it a hit.
It's interesting because Get Lucky is the kind of composition that we would have probably made back in the day. One of the key directions when we went into the studio was to make music as if the internet doesn't exist. What that said to me was analog recording. Our performances had to be precise because we had to work around the limitations of the gear. So I think by having all of that spiritual and artistic information, it created a mojo that is undeniable.
We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky.
At the time that I was playing Get Lucky, I did not know that Daft Punk would choose that song as the single. So I tried to make everything the single. I was actually only making one song, and it wound up turning into 3.
Is this disco still?
Disco never went away. When Disco Sucks happened in America, if you look at the charts in 1980, they demonized our record Good Times. But exactly 1 year to the day that Good Times was #1, the #1 record was Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. Sounds a hell of a lot like Good Times, a lot more like Good Times than My Sharona.
You were playing Glastonbury, you were headlining Birmingham's mostly jazz, funk and soul festival in July. It does not strike me that you are slowing down.
No. As a matter of fact, what happened was a little over 2 years ago, I was stricken with cancer, and when they diagnosed me, they said that it was extremely aggressive. When you hear those three words together, extremely aggressive cancer, it makes you reevaluate your life. And at that point, I decided that I was going to do as much music as I could do. I was going to play as many concerts as I could play. I was going to make as many recordings as I could make. I'm doing not one Broadway show, but two. And some of my friends said, oh, yeah, I know you're just trying to outrun death. I was like, oh, no, dudes, I'm just trying to get in as much as I can because I love doing this. And I'm happy to say that currently I'm cancer-free.
How do you deal with it mentally?
There was a popular movie that came out a few years ago called Finding Nemo. Ellen DeGeneres' character just says, keep swimming, keep swimming, keep swimming. That's what I do. I just keep swimming.